Good evening, class. Tonight we're going to talk about sketching out a bathroom. This is for the blueprint assignment that you had the other night. And what I'd like to do is to go over this sketch. Let's see how we can get this. Yeah. Okay. And before, it wasn't until after we had signed off that I realized I don't think I gave you the scale. Uh, the scale, for those of you who work with prints, you know that it's almost always 1/4 inch to the foot. That's the standard scale on blueprints that we use. Occasionally, but not often, we have 1/8 inch to the foot. That would be for a very big building. And once you get to 1/8 inch, you lose a lot of detail. And going the other way, you might see 1/2 inch to the foot or even 1 inch to the foot. That would be maybe a kitchen plan for the kitchen cabinets, which we don't usually get involved with. Okay, but if you need a little more detail about the kitchen than the print shows, if you get your hands on the kitchen floor plan, that will probably be 1 inch to the foot. In any case, what I'm looking for is for you to do 1/4 inch to the foot. Now, for those of you who work with prints and you want to go a little bigger, go ahead, go 1/2 inch to the foot. I think that will fit on a piece of notebook paper. For example, 7x9, 1/4 inch to the foot. That's kind of small. That's only like 1 3/4 wide and maybe a little less than 4 inches long. If you double that, you could go to a much bigger, like 3.5 by 4.5. It would easily fit on a piece of notebook paper. So if you haven't done it yet, if you haven't tried to draw this sketch, scale it up to, I'd suggest try 1/4 inch if you like, but you'll notice how small it is. You can scale it up to 1/2 inch to the foot, and you'll get a lot more detail. Now, this one here is like enormous, as you can see. It's 14 wide, so it's this is like 2 inches to the foot. This is pretty big, but I needed something that size to go on this whiteboard, and of course I had to draw that. There's no way I could have got it that straight, so it took me some time to draw it with a yardstick. By the way, this stuff is really slick. The ruler doesn't want to stay in one place. But anyway, that's the sketch I was hoping to get from you, something like this here, and I'd like to go over it now. So if you guys have the sketch that you attempted, if you attempted it, or if you don't, get yourself a ruler and a piece of paper, and we'll give it a try. Okay, I'll give you a minute to find that, and while you're doing that, I'm going to just spell out a few things that are on here. Now, this here, the closet, talk about what I didn't do. I didn't get too fancy with the closet. I could have put bifold doors, but I'm not that good at drawing bifold doors. We don't usually deal with this stuff. So what I did is I just left some wide shelves. In other words, you'd be standing here looking to the left as we look at it from here, and you just have some wide shelves here. Usually it's more than that, but it could be shelves. You don't have to put anything there. Legally, there's nothing that needs to go there. Now, if those of you who have been around and done some remodeling, you probably noticed this wall. I drew the walls in. I wasn't going to, but they will come in handy. This wall here would be where you'd have an access panel to get to the shower valve. We don't usually put them in with modern tub valves because they are accessible from the front. But in the old days, they sometimes left a accessible panel where you got a panel maybe a foot wide, maybe a little over a foot long with 4 screws. You take the screws off and there's the valve. Okay. Once in a while you have to get in there. It does come in handy if you got to replace the valve. That would go right here where my finger is, like right where that shelf is. Also, while we're at it, when you put a tub in, those of you guys, especially tier 2, you've run into this, I'm sure. The studs always come out about where my little finger is here, right? About halfway across where the drain is about 16 inches. That's where the studs go. So you're going to take that stud right here and slide it over one side or the other and find another one. Now, where do you get the other stud from? You're in a house that's already been roughed in, they picked up, they're gone. Well, you can do one of two things. One, you can be a nice guy and pick up a stud, Home Depot or somewhere at lunchtime. Or you could be a little sneaky, get your Sawzall and take one out of the bedroom, right? Just cut one out, pop it in right here where my other finger is. So you got 2 studs now, one here and one here, right? About 12 inches apart, you put your valve in the middle. Okay, sounds familiar to some of you guys, I'm sure. All right, this tub I drew in here is just a generic tub. Just remember, this thickness right here is the wall. This is the lip on the tub, right? I didn't draw it a different color, but this would be the lip of the tub right here. Now, walk-in shower. First one I put in was at my own house several years ago. Same dimensions, but of course the floor doesn't look like this. The drain is, no, the drain is like that. I'll take that back. The drain is right at one end like this here. It's like a tub drain, but this is not here. You just step right in. The lip is only several inches high, like a typical stand-up shower. Okay, it's just an extended version of that. And it fits into a space that originally was designed almost 30 years ago for a 5-foot bathtub. Now, at that time, we were still putting in quite a few cast iron tubs, and I imagine a few of you have put those in. But today, I think it's more and more of the fiberglass, the one piece. Or in the case of a remodeling job, like this in my own house, it was a 3-piece, right? So you get it up the stairs. Okay, those of you who are going to draw this, I'm sure you must have a piece of paper and a pencil and a ruler by now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, since I've already got the sketch, I'm just going to draw in some dimension lines. Okay, let's use different color ink. Now, a few things I'm going to point out in general. One, the swing of the door. You just show the door like this. It's about a 32-inch door, which is typical on the inside of a house. Your exterior doors are usually 36. I just put in about a half a dozen doors in my own house. All the exterior doors are 36. The 32s you can put on the inside. I guess they're legal on the outside too, but 36 is a nice wide door. I actually used them some 36 on the inside. So, but on the inside of a house like this, it's usually 32. Any case, this is our door. This is the swing of the door. This line here, which I'm sure you're familiar with, right? And this is the opening. The vanity is right up against the corner. In the corner like this here, 2-bowl vanity. Okay, let's cover the easiest thing here, which would probably be the toilet. All right, so let's put a pipe in the wall right here. Okay, that's going to be the stack coming up. It usually is centered in back of the toilet. It doesn't have to be, but it usually is. Now the spacing from here to here would be 3 feet. You can draw this in. Right. Actually, you'd have to draw the sketch in first. You might have to come back if you really want to do it. Come back and you could put these dimensions in later on your own sketch. Okay, so we got 3 feet. Now, if you remember from class, the legal minimum for a water closet, test question pops up all the time, is 30 inches for a water closet, right? Side to side, that would be like this, side to side, right? So it'd be 15 and 15. Of course, in a new house, we don't do that. 15 is a little tight. Usually, ideally, I would say 36 inches is a good measurement. Now, this bathroom here, because I made up the measurements, it came out just right. 6-foot vanity, 3 feet here, there's your 9 feet. So here's 6 feet. Like this. Okay. So you should have an equal space here and an equal space here. Now, a lot of customers aren't aware of some things. But when something is screwed up, they usually can tell it's not right. They might not know what's not right, but they know there's something wrong. So what happens? You read the print wrong. This is not here when you roughed in, right? Not there. There's nothing there except for this stud wall and here and this. So you rough it in 15 on center. So let's say you went 15 here. So instead of here, you went 15. So it's 15. Okay, now what do we got over on this side? Add 3 to 18, you get 21. All right? Do Do you think your customer is going to notice that it's not in the center? By sliding it 3 inches one way, you add 3 the other, so it doubles the mistake. So if this is 3 inches here, this is 6 inches, right? 15, 21. Okay, now I didn't do that to scale, but I think it's, if anything, it's going to be more noticeable than even this. Not good. Always be careful when you're scaling a blueprint. It's going to be 1/4 inch, so that's going to be a tiny little bathroom. This bathroom is going to be very small on the blueprint. Be very careful that you got it right, okay? Because if you got it wrong and nobody catches it before the vanity goes in, like after all the floors are finished, right? The floors are done, everything's all painted up. Now what are you going to do? How are you going to move this? An offset flange? I don't think so. It doesn't go 3 inches. That's if you can even get an offset flange in it. And if it's between the floors, between the first and second floor, you're out of luck. The basement, maybe, but not on the second floor. If you can't get at it from below. Okay, so that takes care of the water closet. The water closet, of course, is going to rough in. Okay, so how far is that? Anybody tell me how far that is? Can't hear you. Oh, that's right. I think I heard somebody say from here to here, right, is about 13 inches. Excuse me, from the wall, which is right there, to the center of the water closet flange is about 13 inches. Okay? It's a 12-inch rough toilet, I know. But when we rough it in, it's 13 off the studded wall. Remember, the wall's going to have at least 1/2 inch of sheetrock, maybe a little more on there, but at least 1/2 inch. Okay, so go about 13. Right? Don't cut back too much because it's not going to fit. The toilet will, the flange will be too close to the wall and you're going to be out of luck. All right, so that should be about 13 inches right here. And also 18, 18, 18. That's what it should look like. All right, so that takes care of the water closet. Now, I know we drew this, you sketched this mainly to get used to the 1/4 inch to the foot. You'll get used to that pretty quick. You know, eventually the boss is going to trust you to lay out the bathroom. Maybe, obviously not right away, but after a while, depending on the guy or girl, they're going to let you lay out the bathroom, right? This is not a problem right now, right? You get the cabinet to, you can be off by a couple inches. Not a big deal. We'll talk about that last. Let's go back over to the tub. We're done with the water closet. Now, also, before you do this complete, you might want to see how you're going to vent this place, this bathroom. All right, so I'm going to go in red here. Let's come off here in red. I'm just going to do a single line. We're going to do a Y right in here. I'm going to come out here. And then we're going to go that way. And this is going to be coming over here like that. The P-trap is going to be right here. Okay? Now, because this is less than 5 feet, we'll see 5 feet or less, I don't have to vent it. Right? Because this is going to be my wet vent right here. Right? That's what it looks like. There's no way, I've never seen a job yet where I could go from here to here and be within the limit of 5 or 6 feet. So what you do is you just kind of take this 2-inch line, right, which is going to eventually get over to here. This is kind of the roundabout way to get to your laughs. Okay, like that. Okay, now 1/4 inch to the foot. Let's get back to this. This is 2 feet right here. All your vanities, the countertop is 2 feet, give or take very little. Right, they're almost always 2 feet. This one is 6 feet long. Now here's a problem that pops up. Again, you guys that have been around for a while have probably seen this. This vanity on the blueprint, if it was a spec house, we'll say. Now there's 2 words you want to get used to. One is spec or speculation. It means the contractor is building the house and he hopes to sell it once it's built. Maybe while it's being built, if he's lucky, but most likely after it's built. So he invests a ton of money in the property, the water, the sewage, electricity, whatever it takes. And he puts up the house. and you're a part of it. You provide the plumbing, possibly the heat, maybe even the well. And at the end of the job, he sells it, right? Hopefully, he can sell it right away. Sometimes he sells it before he's done. That's not good for us. Here's the reason. You probably spec'd out, because usually guys I worked with used to trust me to put in good, durable, reasonably priced material. I used to use Kohler at the time, many years ago. And they make good stuff. Kohler water closets, lavs, tub and shower. And since it was white, I could mix and match things. I could get fiberglass from somewhere else. But I always put in pretty good stuff, and they were happy with it. So it was something I could put in with my eyes closed, pretty much. What happens? Customer comes along midway through the job after you're roughed in. You're all roughed in. Nothing's there yet. Maybe the tub. Maybe nothing yet. You haven't got to this point. What do? They change everything, right? They want to upscale everything. So the vanity like this, or maybe just a single vanity. I got a pretty fancy one here. I got a double. It's usually a master bath. But the single that you were planning on, out. That's out. Now we're going to put in a wall hung. Not a wall hung, excuse me, a pedestal. Now, those of you who've done a pedestal, I think you'll agree, you'd rather not do another pedestal. A pedestal takes hours to put in. This one here, if all I have is a single bowl, I could rough that in and finish it very quickly, right? Less than an hour. It's easy. It's an easy job. Pedestal? No way. A pedestal is a wall hung with a post. Those of you who haven't done one, it hangs on the wall and it also sits on the post. It has to be a perfect lineup. If it's off by even 1/8 of an inch, it's going to be rocking on the bracket, or it's going to be sitting, the pedestal is going to be moving below it. So you got to be, it's very precise how you put it in. Also, you got to put blocking in the wall, right and back. If this was a pedestal sink, right in here where my finger is, you got to put at least a 2x6, 2x8, probably 2x10 be even better, between the studs back there. And hopefully it would land between the studs, so you only have to put one piece of blocking. If the stud's in the way, in the middle of the bracket, you got to put blocking on both sides. Real pain in the neck. And if you don't do it, you ask the carpenter to do it, and he forgets, and you go to put the bracket in. This happened. I'm sure it's happened to some of you guys. You put the screw in, there's nothing there. Now what? That's a problem. Okay, so like I'm saying, if you hear the word spec house, that means it's going to be sold later. And if nobody buys it, great for you, not so good for maybe the builder. Now, the other word where you hear specs is the specs. That would be the blueprint and all the spec sheets, one for electrical, one for plumbing, one for heating, and so on. The word spec in that case is short for specifications, okay? Two different specs. One is speculation, one is specification. So get used to that. And once in a while, especially a fancy house, the more upscale a house, the more detailed. You might have a page with just the plumbing, and they'll tell you precisely what they want, color, style, all that, right? Nothing left to the imagination. As far as the blueprint part of it goes, I've never seen a house with a print that laid out the plumbing, not at the house level. Commercial building, of course, but not at this level here. Okay, so we took care of the vanity, 2 feet by 6 feet, right? Drawing that in, freehand in these bowls like this here, just freehand them in. Okay, and I'm going to drop over here and finish up this tub. Now the tub is usually 5 feet long, right? I'm going to put it right here. Now remember, it's a 9-foot bathroom. So you got 4 more feet right here. And the width of the depth of the tub right here is going to be, I think it'll go about 32, 33, depends on the manufacturer and the type of tub. We'll say 33 inches. 32 is fine. Let's do 32. That way it's easier on the ruler. So 2.5 feet. Now, quick lesson on tubs. Any tub, cheap tub, expensive tub, they're called by left or right. You would have to stand right here, facing in at the tub. You're looking at the tub. The drain here is on your left. That's a left-hand tub. Don't screw it up. If you call it wrong and it gets delivered, right, and you're not there, the carpenters, as a favor, bring it upstairs and put it in place for you, right? And then they do their thing. You're gonna have a problem if it's a one piece, because if it's a one piece, you get the drain over here on the outside wall. You're out of luck. You got to get it out of there. So be sure that you got that right if it's your job. This is a left hand. Don't want it on the outside wall. You cannot have the shower valve in the outside wall. That's out. You'd have to actually build a wall, a false wall like this, to put it in there. You don't want to get involved with that. Okay, so whether or not this is a walk-in tub or a stand-up regular, tub and shower, the difference, there is a difference. Let me think about that. If this is going to be a 5-foot shower, which is rather common now, they were not years ago, this has to be a 2-inch line. If this is a tub and shower combination, you can still use 1.5 inches. You don't have to go to 2-inch, okay? That's still a bathtub. All right, but once it becomes a shower, this line here has to be 2 inch. You can still do this wet vent right here. Okay, I'm going to keep this as a tub. So this will be 1.5 inches. Okay, so I wasn't looking for all of these dimensions. I just wanted you to see if you could draw something to scale. That was my goal, and my mistake. I don't think I gave you the scale. And for those of you who haven't done it, like I said, you could try a 1/2 inch to the foot. You could even try a 1 inch to the foot. It would be 7 inches wide by 9 inches long. It would fit. Now I think of it, 8.5 by 11 piece of notebook paper. You could do it. You can actually do it. And the bigger the scale, the more detail it gives you. It'd kind of be like if this was the sheet of notebook paper, it'd be roughly like this on notebook paper. Okay, so we pretty much knocked off the tub and the water closet. One thing about the tub, if it's a cast iron tub, and I don't know if any of you guys are still doing them, once in a while I think you might be putting them in. You have to put a 2x4 on this wall to rest it, because this tub here has the apron, that skirt that goes down to the floor. That's fine, but that's, right here, that little wall there. But in the back, on the side, there's nothing there. You're going to have to put a 2x4 in. So what you have to do is fit the tub in, lower it down carefully, watch your fingers, get it level, get your level out, mark the studs, and then deduct 1 inch for the thickness of the lip right here where my finger is. Roll the tub out onto some cardboard or something that won't scratch the tub, and then put the 2x4 in, and then put the tub back. Now this time you got to be very careful because it will crush your fingers. So you got to snap your fingers out of the way and let that tub drop down a few inches. If you spiked it in well enough with some serious nails or a bunch of screws, you're probably okay. All right, that would be a cast iron tub, but I don't think you're going to do that very often these days. Steel tub, I only put 2 or 3 of them in, and all the time I was doing this. I don't think they're much more popular. They're very inexpensive. They sound like a drum when you bang on them. The enamel looks okay, but they're very cheap. And they drop in the same way. And I think there was a flange that came up and you screwed the flange into the wall. But they were easy. I do remember that. They were quite easy. Now the fiberglass, you should have some studs. If this was fiberglass, you'd have studs right here where my finger is and right here. And then, randomly placed every 16 inches. Not random. Every 16 inches, you got another one. And you would drill it and then put screws in, depending on what your boss wants to do. I've used roofing nails, like 1.5 inch roofing nails. I've used deck screws. Again, whatever you prefer. But it has to be fastened, leveled, and all that. And some of them you have to put braces underneath. You have to some guys put plaster underneath. Once in a while, there's a few models that actually go right to the floor. Um, I'll leave that one up to you. They're all, like I said, they all could be different. Now the drain right here, if this is in, let's try this. If this is in concrete or even just in plywood, you have to cut this out to accommodate the drain, maybe a foot long this way, like this, and about 8 inches wide. Like that. That way, you can put the tub waste and overflow. This would be where the pop-up is. This is the pipe that connects it to the overflow that goes up in the wall. Okay, so you have to cut this out. Now, if it was in the floor, like a basement floor or slab, again, if you haven't done this, you'd have to build a box out of like plywood, right? So that when they poured the cement, this would all be exposed. And of course, your pipe would have to be coming into it. Your drain pipe would be like right through the plywood. Okay, so there's something to keep an eye on. And if it was on an upper floor, what you would have to do is to cut the plywood out, right, before you put the tub in place. All right, so I'm sure some of you guys have already done that. Let's see how we're doing. Yeah, we're kind of running out of time here. All right, let me step this up a bit. So this is our tub, all installed. Another thing, if this is in a new house, you're pretty safe. New houses are quite level. But once in a while, I've seen this a few times in the city of Fall River in particular. The outer wall is higher than some of the inside. I actually lived in a house like that was built in 1860, where the floor pitches down, right? Or sometimes it might even pitch the wrong way. Pay attention to that. If this floor is not flat, you have to adjust the tub level, right? Because this here, the tub is pitched to allow the water to run out at a certain rate, right? You don't want it going too much because it'll be tilted too much. And the other way, it just sits there. So you've got to make sure that the tub is sitting on a floor that's flat. Now, if the floor's not flat, what you can do is the tub goes in on the rough floor, all right? So what you do is you can shim it up to maybe 3/4 inch thick, as thick as the finished floor is going to be. And you block it up, do a very good job blocking it up. So you could raise up this side, we'll say 3/4 inch, to level the floor. Because if the floor is like falling away, it's like settling. That's the way it usually goes. This is high, the middle of the house is lower. And so what you got to do is you got to raise this tub up so it's level. And up to 3/4 inch, you can hide it behind the finished floor. 3/4, you're pushing it. Okay, but look into that, right? Sometimes your eye can fool you. You don't realize it, but old houses are like that. They are a little tricky. Okay, last thing is the vanity. Now, this is a double bowl. Now, let's say this was a spec house and you were going to put in one bowl. All right, the last second, oh, we got to put two bowls in. All right, if they change the length of the vanity, which happens all the time, as I remember it, they run in 6-inch increments. They go from 42, 48, 54, 60, 66, 5.5 feet, and 72. This would be a big one, 72 inches. A nice double bowl, nice big long one. Nobody's bumping each other. All right. Be careful. You might have roughed it in, we'll say about here for, just a regular vanity. So you would have been roughing your pipe in. This bowl would have been maybe a little more this way. So you'd be coming in here. And now you got this bowl. And you're going to say, I'll just put a TY, hook it up like a kitchen sink. Continuous waste. No, what happens? Like they say, if something can go wrong, it goes wrong. I'm going to use this, let me use the green. All right. They put in a bigger vanity and they put drawers in. Now, meanwhile, you left your rough alone. You got your hot and cold. Maybe you can sneak a hot and cold through here, through that frame of the drawers. You probably could, because in back there's usually a little bit of space. But the chance of you getting the 1.5-inch drain through there are pretty slim. I did it once. I actually had to beat it with a 2x4 and a hammer. And I just about got it in back of the frame, but I learned my lesson. If you got a double bowl sink like this, or they change it to a double bowl, here's what you do. you rough in the two separate sinks. You're going to rough it in here, right? You P-trap and through the wall here and through the wall here. They got nothing to do with each other, right? The vent runs up here, the vent runs up here. Okay, here's the reason. They might put a vanity above these sinks here, okay? So you might want to actually keep this off to the side, the drain off to the side, this drain off to the side, or run 2-inch. If you run 2-inch, you don't have to put a vent between them. You can have the drain go down over here. In fact, let's complete this. Okay. I'm going to come off here. Kind of rushing this, which I don't like to do, but I'm running out of time. And if I use 2-inch, I can do this, right? I can do this, come down, and pick up this one. Okay? That's legal. As long as this one's within 6 feet of this. If this is 1.5 inches, I've got to put a vent right where my finger is in the middle. Forget it. This is 2-inch automatically because it's the wet vent, right? This line here is the wet vent. So this could have gone right to here, but I did this to pick up the tub. All legal. Nothing wrong with it. Actually, it's a good job. When I was an inspector and I saw somebody doing this, I knew they knew what they were doing. Okay, so the wet vent starts here and goes over here. This is the main stack up and out the roof. The vent stack, this will come up, and in the attic, I bring it back over here. Okay, this is one bowl. This is the other bowl. If there's a the drawers, I'm okay. If there's a medicine cabinet recess, not too common, but once in a while, I'm okay, right? Because this drain pipe is down low. Okay, with that, I definitely got to cut this class. All right, if you got any question about the blueprints or anything on here, I didn't spend a lot of time on the dimensions, but I think you can see what they are. Right, this here would have been 4 feet from here to here. This here is not really important to us, but this would be 2.5 feet, like this here, right, just past the cabinet. And that's about it. Oh, one last thing. If you have baseboard, let's say you got the heat in here too, and you're doing baseboard, you would run the baseboard probably from here to as much as you could fit in here. Now, what's the problem with the baseboard? Some of you have probably seen this if you're doing remodel and repair work. We'll say that that's a little less than 5 feet. It's probably like 4 feet. If you can, once in a while, you can actually slip a piece in the back of the toilet because there's enough of a hollow in the back of the toilet. You can slide the baseboard over to here. You can't see it in this sketch, of course, but underneath the tank, there's enough space sometimes. But I'm not going to count on that. This gives you maybe 4 feet, 4 and change right here. Just put in what you can. The problem is that with the toilet here, you'll probably find that from here to about here, within a few years, it'll get rusty. Just the urine must be like a fine mist, I think, is my theory, and it just burns the enamel right off the baseboard. I'm sure some of you have seen that. You might even have that at your own house, and there's not much you can do about it. Every once in a while, when it just starts in your own house, if it gets to be a problem, just sand it off, get some Rust-Oleum, spray it. Now, I have seen one house, one time, they let it go, and I actually put the heat in back in 1980, and around 15, 20 years later, I went back for something, and this baseboard, and it was good stuff. It wasn't junk around. I mean, they're all pretty good. It not only burned the enamel off, it burned through the steel, and the steel was like disintegrating. It was like beyond salvage. There was nothing there to spray. It was like gone. The damper, the little flap thing was rotted out, and the front plate was partially rotted. So there's a problem. I don't know how to get around it. If this is all you've got, what are you going to do? You can put a toe kick heater maybe over here, but they're very expensive. All right, we usually save those for the kitchen where there is no other choice. Okay, so that's the sketch. I will see you back in class. If you got any questions on chapter 6, we'll go over the answers when we go live. And with that, I'm going to cut this one off, and I'll see you in class.